Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a live edition of Behind the Mic here on ASTV Productions. My name is Jonathan Hodgson, and I'll be with you throughout the next hour as we have a couple of fun conversations ready to go with a couple of great sportscasters from the province of Saskatchewan. A lot of hockey talk here tonight, maybe a little bit of baseball with each of our guests. We'll see where it goes, but we're thrilled to be joined here in a couple of moments by Jamie Neugebauer, the voice of the Notre Dame Hounds of the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. He also does some writing, reporting on the Montreal Warriors for DUBNetwork, and has been calling hockey games at the junior A level across Canada, as he has extensive experience in the Ontario Junior Hockey League. We'll get into season prep for not only the Notre Dame Hounds, but the Saskatchewan Junior League, as they're set to return to a full season this coming fall. Jamie is also on the communication staff for the SJHL, so we'll see what insights he has as to the SJ's prep for the new season, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Montreal Warriors and the Western Hockey League's upcoming season. The big news around the Montreal Warriors is defenseman Denton Matejchuk about a week ago was invited to Canada's U18 summer camp, so we'll talk about that a little bit and then get into more of Jamie's story. As I mentioned, calling junior hockey for a number of years in a number of different spots, writing, reporting, video. He's got all the media skills and all the experience, so we can't wait to find out a little bit more about his journey. And then in the second half, we'll be joined live by Daryn Dupont, who will make his return to Behind the Mic for the second time, the co-host of the Rod Pedersen Show and the CEO of Dupont Media, which this spring acquired the DUBNetwork. We'll talk both about the Rod Pedersen Show and their recent trip to the Stanley Cup Final as they broadcast live the days of games 3 and 4 in Montreal. And then we'll talk about what exciting things might be in store during the Western Hockey League season and the DUBNetwork's coverage. So we will toss it to our first break here on Behind the Mic. And before we do, we will remind you that we are simulcasting live tonight on Facebook. You can find all of our shows and our archives based off of our website, astvproductions.com. That's where you'll find all of our Behind the Mic shows and all of our other shows and live game broadcasts. We simulcast on Facebook, and we have further updates for you over on our Twitter page at ASTV. So once again, thanks so much for tuning us in, and we will be right back with you after a short break on the other side with Jamie Neugebauer from the Notre Dame Hounds. And welcome back to Behind the Mic here on ASTV Productions, joined now by our first guest this evening, Jamie Neugebauer from the Notre Dame Hounds and from DUBNetwork. Jamie, thanks so much for coming on with us.
It's an absolute treat to be here. I've been warming up my arm like Robbie Ray for the Blue Jays, and then Dupes is going to be the closer, I guess. Little Jordan Romano, maybe some Craig Kimbrell, if the Jays can reach out and grab him later this year. But happy to be the opener for this one.
I've been looking forward to having you on for a while, as you and I were talking briefly before we went on air tonight. I myself have a lot of experience and a lot of time in Saskatchewan, mainly in the summer when the weather's a little more forgiving on the baseball side. But a lot of good people in Saskatchewan that I look forward to getting on here, and you're definitely one of those. So looking forward to talking a little bit of hockey with you here tonight. So where are you joining us from tonight?
I am hiding in my basement from my wife and daughter in Regina, Saskatchewan. And I'm one of the few people, I guess, that work for Notre Dame that commute in when I need to, but I am in Regina.
Notre Dame, of course, based in Wilcox, Saskatchewan. What's that commute like from Regina to Wilcox?
Time-wise, it's not a problem. The highway down there, the Highway 6 is perfect for me. I'm right in the south of Regina, so that's nice. The only problem that comes is when it's blowing snow and it's the prairies and you can't see anything. You try your high beams, you try your low beams, you try everything. All you can do is white knuckle it. But it's only about 25 minutes, half an hour south. And you talked about my time in the OJHL and the precipitation and the crazy highway traffic and everything out there. I'll definitely take this commute over, taking the QEW to Oakville from Toronto for a Friday night game during rush hour. This is much better.
Now, is Ontario originally your home base?
That's correct. I was born in Toronto. I grew up in Vaughan, Ontario, which is also the home of Milos Raonic, tennis star, and Andrew Wiggins, the basketball player who went to the same high school as me. And I went back to the same high school, Vaughan Secondary, and I said to my gym coach, or my gym teacher and his basketball coach, Gus Gymnopoulos is his name. I said, Gus, why don't you make me into Andrew Wiggins? And he said, looked at me and he said, look what I'm working with here, Nugsy. And I said, fair enough. But proud native of Vaughan, Ontario, 340,000 people just north of Toronto.
Now, something that is brought up a little bit at the major junior level in terms of the Western Hockey League is the travel in the WHL, long distances between cities, long open spaces, and they talk by the time the Western Hockey League representative gets through the WHL playoffs, the travel can really take a toll with what you're talking about, with the types of hours that have to be spent in the West. And then you hear, I have no experience myself with it, but you hear about the Ontario Hockey League with having teams more densely packed, and you have experience at the junior A level in Saskatchewan and Ontario. Is there something to that with the different disbursements of the teams?
I mean, at the end of the day, things like that, are things, I guess, that the team that didn't win the Memorial Cups uses as an excuse, maybe. But certainly it's the case. I mean, guys in Ontario don't have a clue what it's like. Now, that being said, there's a different situation in Ontario in that the pool of players is so dense as well. So the competition for spots, competition for minor hockey spots before you get to the OHL is another level too. So, you deal with your different things, wherever you go. But, absolutely in the OHL, they have no idea what these guys deal with. And we saw that most significantly, I think, with the Swift Current Broncos a couple of years ago when the Memorial Cup was in Regina. They were a great team, had lots of talent, great goaltender, great coach in Manny Vivieros, but just out of gas completely. And so there's absolutely something to be said for the fact that they beat each other up out here.
Absolutely. Well, let's look a little bit closer at your Notre Dame Hounds. The SJHL is preparing for a return to what I believe is largely a normal schedule structure, 58-game schedule for this upcoming season. How excited are you to get back to something that looks a lot more normal than what you guys have had for the last 2 seasons?
I can't wait, and I just get emotional thinking about it. To be honest, I've had the luck, whatever you want to call it, the blessing, if you want to call it that, to call a couple games and showcases and events this summer already, and I get so excited every time. But just to be down in Wilcox, where it's such a rich trove of hockey history. You look at the wall there on the Duncan McNeil Arena on the campus there. Of all the alumni, and it is just baffling from Curtis Joseph, Rod Brindamore, Wendell Clark. The list goes on and on and on of this tiny little place in the middle of the prairies and nowhere, and you just walk in there and it just feels like hockey. It smells like hockey, and it just feels right. So I'm extremely excited for the season, both from a Notre Dame perspective, but also from a league perspective, where I've taken some elevated roles or different roles, I guess, along with my partner on the SJ at Noon show, which we run on Mondays during the season, usually on Facebook Live and Twitch, with my partner Rory McGurran, who's the voice of the Humboldt Broncos, who I believe as well. And we're going to be doing all sorts of things. There's all sorts of visioning happening. So I can tell you, if you're out there, if you're a Junior A fan, if you're an SJHL fan, there's some beautiful things coming up the pipe.
Sounds great. And as we both referenced, you're on the SJHL communications staff. Just take us, if you could, through a little bit of the nuts and bolts of what this upcoming season is going to look like in terms of games, in terms of schedule, in terms of fans, that kind of thing.
So as far as we understand it, as far as I understand it, nothing has been made official in terms of a proclamation, in terms of fans. But I am certain, I am pretty sure from what I understand that, and this is not coming from the league office, this is just from what I see from government rulings and everything, that they're expecting to have as many fans as you want in an SJHL rink. Whether that's going to be packed, and that might be down to the communities feeling a little nervous, but I don't think there'll be any sort of government restrictions on that. So that'll be fun. A normal season would be nice. You think about the SJHL the last number of years. We dealt with the pandemic, and that was horrible in a lot of ways. 2 years before that, we dealt with the Humboldt crash as a community, and how much that caused us all sorts of trouble and grief and pain. Everybody knows somebody very closely, if not directly, that was part of that. So, we would just like a normal year that gets off, well, and it would be nice. You talk about getting beaten up before you get to a regional tournament. The SJHL champion, goes through just a slog fest, because the parity in the SJHL is suffocating in our playoffs. And then they play the Manitoba League champion, where I don't think, there's some great teams in Manitoba, but the slog through the playoffs isn't the same in Manitoba. And then they play each other in the Anavet Cup for the right to get to the Centennial Cup. And so the SJ team is beaten up. It would be super nice if an SJ team finds a way to beat the Manitoban champions in that too. But at this point, all we're praying for is a normal season, because we had the crash. We had a decently normal season in 1920, and then we had this. So, I think I think we've saved up some karma, if you believe in that.
So we've gotten through, it looks like we've all gotten through the worst and the depths of COVID-19, and everybody's looking upwards. Mm-hmm. As communications director for the Hounds, what does your focus look like during the summer months as you get ready for the new season?
Well, the last two off seasons have been ones of a lot of thought and rebuild for Brett Pilkington, the head coach and GM of the Hounds Junior A. And so when there's rebuilding and new players coming in and out and all that, and it's sort of revisioning of what this program's supposed to look like, that always means a lot of work for the communications guy, because there's a trade, there's a signing, and I think every team in the league's probably made a ton of signings from U18 hockey, from wherever, from prep schools. Brett Pilkington, the Hounds Junior A coach and GM, I think he's done a magnificent job putting this team in a direction, this program in a direction that he thinks it needs to go, and that really is young. That is, a team that has a lot of pushback, a lot of grit to it. Won't be overawed by more veteran teams, more experienced teams, maybe teams with more skill and experience. And part of that too is when you're younger, you get more college scouts. When you're younger, and we have a good amount of Americans coming in, you get even more American college scouts looking, because they love to commit to American kids, and so we'll have the full complement of talented young American players, and they're going to form a big time core of this team. Now, the last point I'll make about the Notre Dame Hounds Junior A is we recently announced two of our captains, our captain and one of our assistant captains, and we're going to be, as far as I can think right now, the only team in the SJHL to start. I'm probably missing somebody, but as far as I know, that it is committed to a Division I NCAA program, and our captain is going to be Kevin Anderson, who's committed to Princeton. And I expect great things from him. He's a great player, great young man. And Jared Sitch, the 2003 birth year defenseman, great mobile, better defensively than offensively. Probably will never put up gaudy numbers, but he can certainly play at the D1 level. He's got that mobility and that size and that ability to learn and just be a shutdown guy that anybody wants. So, it's really exciting in the direction that he's taking it. We're going to be young, but we're going to be fun.
Now, switching gears a little bit here in our last few minutes of this block, as we mentioned earlier, you're the Moose Jaw Warriors contributor for DUBNetwork, which our next guest, Daryn Dupont, is involved in the management of. And the Western Hockey League is gearing up for an October start for a return to 68 games and a little bit of a change in the travel for the schedule this year, with West staying within the West and the East staying within the East. But what are some of the things you're tracking in your coverage of the Moose Jaw Warriors right now?
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, there's lots of swirl in this part of the world around Connor Bedard and the Regina Pats, but obviously the Moose Jaw Warriors fans will say that they have a 2005-born champion of their own in Braden Yeager, who was picked third overall in the draft behind Bedard and the other kid in Saskatoon who was to Prince George out there, Riley Height. But the thing is, this Moose Jaw team has so much forward depth. I think since the 2018 days of the Memorial Cup, that team scored for fun, and I think this team will also score for fun. Now the question is, and I thought with the import draft recently happening, they picked a big Slovakian forward by the name of Robert Batso, who's another forward, and I thought maybe they would try to add some real quality at the blue line. Even though Damon Hunt, the captain, is coming back, you talked about Denton Matejchuk. They like the progression that Max Warner, the kid out of the Moose Jaw U18s, he had a progression that he made during the hub. So it's an interesting time, and there's some debate among Moose Jaw media and Moose Jaw fans. How close is this team really to contending? The brass says we're ready to contend right now. We're not going to have Braden Yeager forever. We're not going to have other talented 04s like Denton Matejchuk, who we talked about, and Jagger Furcus, and Eric Allery and Cole Jordan, all these young players. We're not going to have them forever, they say. So why not try to compete and contend right this moment? Now, the biggest question mark for me remains keeping the puck out of the net. And they brought in a 20-year-old goaltender from the Lethbridge Hurricanes named Carl Tedechuk. I assume will start alongside Brett Meerwald, who had a pretty good start to his WHL career as an 03 birth year for the Warriors in the hub. But they're going to score. Will they keep it out?
Yeah, and I remember during the Hub Center season last season, which was staged in Regina at the Brent Center. Rod Pedersen and Darren had the chance to call Pat's games on TV, so they got into the Hub Center to see games. And I remember after one of the games that Connor Bedard went a little crazy and made a couple of highlights. I remember texting Dupes after the game and just saying something to the effect of, "How much fun are you having right now?" And we go on this 5-minute conversation about Connor Bedard, and then I come back to, "You realize I never told you what I was talking about. We just knew what we were talking about." And backing that, going a little wider in the scope of that, like you were going into a little bit, that Eastern Conference could be a lot of fun for a while. It seems like as we just talk about Saskatchewan, it seems, of course, Connor Bedard's going to get the headlines, but it seems like every team has one or two guys kind of around those 15, 16, 17-year-old age groups. So as the Western Hockey League gets their fans back, that could be a lot of fun in Saskatchewan for the next few years.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. You're absolutely right to point out that everybody kind of has their champion. And on the DUBNetwork, I keep writing in terms of, Regina's champion being Bedard, Moose Jaw's champion being Yeager. There's an absolute superstar in the making in Swift Current and Matthew Ward, who, if you don't know his name, look him up. He's unbelievable as well. Came out of the same prep program as Connor Bedard. You go down the list, and obviously they're going to have to do a little bit of rebuilding in Saskatoon with Mitch Love gone and a veteran team gone. They could have won the Memorial Cup this past year. They were kind of gearing for that. They're going to have to figure that out in Saskatoon. But you're absolutely right. There's so much to watch in this conference coming up. Winnipeg has a stable. So get your tickets as soon as you can, everybody. And great point there, Haji.
All right, we got to take our first break here, or our next break here, but we will be right back with one more segment with Jamie Neugebauer from the Notre Dame Hounds and the DUBNetwork. And back here on Behind the Mic on ASTV Productions. Thanks so much for tuning us in wherever you're watching from tonight and making us part of your Friday night. Jonathan Hodgson in conversation in the first half of our show with Jamie Neugebauer from the Notre Dame Hounds and the DUBNetwork. Spent a bit of time in our first block talking about the preparations for the new season for the two teams that you cover. And in our second block here, we want to back it out a little bit, or turn it around a little bit, and talk a little more about your story, some of what got you into it, and some of your experiences on the journey. And something that came to my mind during that first block that I figured I'd keep in my pocket for the second block was we were talking about the travel in Saskatchewan, but there's a flip side to it. And I know in my experience, I know the ballparks of Saskatchewan like the back of my hand. And a lot of them aren't the biggest, fanciest right now, but they're real character places to play. And there's a lot of really good people in each of them that you look forward to seeing. What are some of your favorite rinks to play in and to call games in?
Well, I have a lot of favorites. My favorite rink in the whole wide world to watch a game, anything in, And it's kind of I might, if somebody back in the OJ days are watching this, they might get a little mad at me. That's okay, but it is the classic St. Mike's Arena in close to downtown Toronto, Bathurst and St. Clair, where the St. Michael's Majors used to play in Buzzards, and it's a classic old barn. Reminds me, obviously they get the similar feel to the Dunk, but watching a game that you're right on it, it feels kind of like the L'Orange Ice Wolves feel. I don't know if you've been to L'Orange, Jonathan, at all, but it's kind of like that in terms of how close you are to the game. But it's just a classic barn. That's a great question. Out here, just because of the atmosphere and the pageantry and just the job that they do in that community, the Flin Flon Bombers, the Whitney Forum is just a treat. I've only got to be there once, but tell you what, Mike Regan and company do a great job. Have you been to the Whitney Forum, Hodge? It's a treat if you can ever go to watch a Bomber game.
I haven't had the privilege, but if I'm back there during the season, I might have to do that.
It's a real trek to get up there, and they're usually a great team because Mike Regan knows what he's doing. But it is electric in there in sort of the way that. Everybody bemoans, this era with Netflix and can watch anything they want streamed on TV, and people aren't as excited about things anymore. Blah blah blah. In Flin Flon, it's not like that. It is old time electric, people yelling. It's just crazy. So those are the two that I'll throw out there.
That's some of my favorite ballparks in Saskatchewan, covering the Western Canadian Baseball League. Where the character yards, like it could get fun, like in Yorkton or in Melville, which have rinks as well, and places like Moose Jaw, Swift Current's one of the better teams in that league. Some good times for sure. So going back a little bit, and I just want to get a little better sense of what got you into sportscasting? What was it that clicked that switch in your mind that made you think that you wanted to call games and wanted to cover hockey?
Yeah, so long story, very long story, as short as humanly possible. I was taking my I was taking my history degree in Waterloo, Ontario, at Wilfrid Laurier University in Waterloo, Ontario, about an hour west of Toronto. And I was sitting in a class, and I obviously loved sports, and I had written some blogs previewing Olympic teams and things like that. But I'd say back in 2005, I said, you know what, it would be more fun to probably write and talk about sports than whatever I'm doing right now. As much as I love history, and I would talk about history on a podcast anytime you want, but I thought it'd be more fun, and I thought maybe I'd be better at it because I wasn't great at university. Got writing for the student paper there. Found out that there was a postgraduate program in Toronto that I could take in sports journalism. Volunteered for a junior A team. Realized they didn't have a broadcaster. The Vaughan Vipers, now defunct, are rest in peace Vaughan Vipers, back in 2010. And then I just jumped on, and I guess the rest is history. I don't want to bore you guys with the details too much, but I remember, now he's the general manager of the Collingwood Blues of the Ontario Junior Hockey League, Mike Tarantino. Back in 2014, I went with a team to the RBC Cup, as it was called, the Junior A National Championship in Vernon, British Columbia. And Mike Tarantino was the general manager of that Toronto Lakeshore Patriots team. And Yorkton fans out there will know that that's the year that the Yorkton Terriers last time an SJHL team won the Centennial Cup, RBC Cup. And so I was there. And he looked at me and he said, Nukes, I think you could do this for a living. And I was just working an office job, calling a couple games with teams. And that was maybe the kindest thing outside of my wife saying, yes, I'll marry you, that anybody had ever said to me. And the rest is history. Called different teams, had great experiences, won 2 championships in the OJHL. And, I'm still trying to make it. It's always a grind, as Haji, trying to, find an avenue, find another gig. It's a battle, never ending. If you ever think you're at the end of it, then you probably should do something else. But, I'm really, really lucky that I've got to do this.
And something that Something that has become more and more important in my experience as time goes on is the ability as a broadcaster and as a media type, to be multi-talented, to be able to do all kinds of things. You're a broadcaster, you're a writer, you mentioned podcasting. I believe you spent some time at Sportsnet in video. How crucial has it been for you to be able to have your hand in a little bit of everything?
Yeah, it's enormous. If you're not a big name already, and Rod Pedersen, for example, I'll take him for example. He has all sorts of skills, but if you're not a big name like that, there's no point in going in this field if you can't write, if you can't broadcast, if you can't photo and video edit a little bit, because you just need to do what your employer needs you to do if you're going to make a couple bucks. The bottom line, unless it's completely a passion project for you, if you want to be in the business, then you absolutely need to do that. And I do owe a lot of credit to that, to the program that I took at Centennial College in Toronto, where that was hammered into me. I think probably, just between you, me, and the people watching, Haji, I'm probably a better writer than I am a play-by-play guy. But I enjoy doing play-by-play more than anything in the world. So, you're right on there that you have to be super multifaceted, and clearly with all this stuff, Haji, you're doing a great job yourself.
Well, we we do our best, and this was one of the great things that came out of my last year, 16 months or so, was the opportunity to do this, and kind of the idea stemmed from a conversation I had in the first week of COVID I had with Peter Labardius. And we were just talking about taking the time to connect with people. And this was just kind of my way to connect with my broadcaster friends. So it's been a lot of fun. And just before we let you go and go to a break and then bring in Daryn Dupont in our next segment, you bring up Rod Pedersen, and I can't do a Saskatchewan theme show without bringing up Roddy. You do some work, you do some writing for Rod Pedersen's website, Around the Rink with Neugebauer. Correct me if I got that name wrong, but you do some writing for Rod's website. How did that come about, and where can people find that?
So in 2018, Rod compiled a great book on the history of the SJHL, the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, the heart and soul of the SJHL, which you can still find on the SJHL website. I'm sure if you just asked Roddy where to find it, he could point you in the right direction, Indigo, wherever. Great book. And Rod produced it, and he did the God's work, you'll say, of bringing all these crazy writers together, and we are all nuts. So I give him a lot of credit for that. But he contacted Notre Dame. Notre Dame pointed them to me, and I met with him, and he liked the job that I did, I guess. And I had a lot of fun, and I did another chapter on the Minot Americans defunct team as well in the book. And so he liked it, and he said, "Hey, how about you write 10 things on the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League specifically." During the pandemic, I guess there wasn't as much SJHL news to talk about, so we expanded it to Around the Rinks, and I've started talking about other passions of mine, baseball and soccer and whatever I guess comes to my heart. I even talked about a mosquito repellent product that I like called Thermacell. You should check it out. They don't pay me. It's not an ad, but it's a great product. I was on the sports cage until he left there too. But I do owe a lot to Rod, bringing me with him, what different things that you brought me to do opportunities here in Saskatchewan. I've just written that column week after week. You can find it Wednesday mornings on rodpedersen.com. I try to publicize it on social media. It's just 10 things, bang, 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 and try to put my heart and soul into it like everything.
And we can find your writing also at the DUBNetwork, covering the Moose Jaw Warriors, play-by-play of the SJ's Notre Dame Hounds when they start up in the fall. And do you want to take the chance to plug your Twitter or whatever other projects you have on the go?
Yeah, so Find me at Neugsie, Neugsie on Twitter. You can probably find me on Instagram. I can't think offhand what my Instagram is, but whatever. Just find me on Twitter. Send me a message. Love to hear from anybody. Talk about any of these topics. We've got lots of things on the go. And make sure you tune into, I know you tune into this show, but then when in the SJHL starts up, the SJ at noon, with me and Rory, and we've got Munz Media, Tanner Getz running it behind the scenes. He is professional, as good as it gets here in Regina. It's going to be a blast. We had a great time last year, even during the pandemic. So we got lots of things on the go, Haji. I got a baby in the wife's belly as well, so that's coming in November, and a 2-year-old daughter who exhausts me, but that's why I'm hiding in the basement.
Sounds great. All right, Jimmy. We'll find you. We'll find you there for sure. We'll be reading. We'll be listening. Thanks so much for coming on the show with us tonight.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
We'll go to another break here, and we'll be back on the other side with Daryn Dupont from the Rod Pedersen Show. Thanks for watching.
Why go solar? Solar is better than ever. Our revolutionary design and inverter equipment with the latest in solar panel technology for the ultimate in-home and business security. That's right, I said security. Grid security and security of your home are linked. Fortify your future today with a battery backup system. No maintenance, quiet running. Did you know in Manitoba, grid-connected, off-grid, and battery backup systems are 100% right off in the year you purchase for any company or farm? Do you want to back up your internet, keep your tills running, and the lights on? We can install a system that is right for you with battery backup fully capable of taking on all those essential loads and keeping you running. When you call our experts at Evolve Green, ask about getting your free energy audit today. Call or email today to find out what system works best for you. 1-866-5EVOLVE or support@evolvegreen.ca. Also, be sure to check out our website at www.evolvegreen.ca.
And once again, welcome back to Behind the Mic here on ASTV Productions. Jonathan Hodgson back with you. Thrilled now to bring in our next guest this evening. It is Daryn Dupont, live from, what is that, the Saskatchewan Center in Saskatoon?
You nailed it. You nailed it. That's absolutely what it is.
Getting ready for the Saskatchewan Rattlers tonight, I believe.
Here, I'll try and give you a shot. Yeah, it is. It's the Rattlers. I don't want to do it during the interview because you won't see my face, but I snuck up to the nosebleeds here to get ready for this interview, and then we were down on the court side and mingling a little bit already, so we got some downtime here before they tip off at 7.
You're up near Les Lazaruk territory for Blades.
Yeah, Les, let me see. Okay, where are we? Les would be, you see the clock, he would be probably a little bit to the right of that, about by the curtain there. That would be Les and my spot to call the game.
Beautiful. Well, thanks so much for coming on with us and making time for us this evening.
Hey, I know it feels like it's been like a struggle to get this together, but hey, we got to move mountains to make sure we get on this show for you.
No, it's an absolute thrill to have you on whenever we can. Excited to talk about it because you've had a couple of exciting things going on in the last couple of weeks that we wanted to chat with you about. As we had mentioned, of course, you're the co-host riding shotgun with RP on the Rod Pedersen Show. And a couple of weeks ago, you guys packed up and took the show to Montreal for the Stanley Cup Final. How was that?
You know, Jonathan, it was unreal. It was so much fun. That city was just a buzz with the Stanley Cup. I mean, that's a hockey town. And they love the Habs in that market, unlike any other market that I've really been to. And I live in Saskatchewan, where they have the Riders. but they love the Habs more than Saskatchewan loves the Riders. Like it is a religion to cheer for the Canadians. So the whole thing, the whole experience was just unbelievable.
And of course, that was the first time that the Canadians had been to the final since '93, so they were already primed and ready for a party. But given the timing of it, with it being the first big thing there, since the meat of COVID, and just how jacked up was that city, and what did we've seen that shot on the game broadcast just outside the rink, and we've heard the stories about the 3,500 inside who were delayed in getting outside after the games. But just how electric was that city on the 2 game days?
I mean, you saw people, whether it was in our hotel, on the streets, as early as 6 a.m. had their jerseys on. The streets were lined with people. The restaurants were full of people in their jerseys. Out my hotel room, I could see, because we stayed right outside the Bell Center, and we could see people walking around, gathering. They started lining up 7 hours prior to puck drop just to be outside in the little square. Like it was special. It was a really special moment. It's too bad they couldn't pull it off, but it was cool to be a part of it.
And so let's take it back to the context of the show. You guys have been at the studio in Regina. Where did that idea? When did that idea first come up? Of hey, let's go on the road.
Yeah, when Montreal made the Cup, well, first of all, because of Rod's love for the Vegas Golden Knights, which happened really fast, and because of his really close relationships he has with several members of that Golden Knights organization, I had actually started looking up trips to Vegas. And the border was going to be a little bit of an issue. Not a big one because we were going down for work, but coming back and being able to do our show and not quarantine and all those things, it was going to be a slight issue. But anyways, so I had quotes out, I had plans, and I hadn't even thought about Montreal. And here Montreal wins, and I'm like, I guess we're not going on the road. And then all of a sudden, a switch flipped, and I'm like, why wouldn't we go to Montreal? So booked the flights, got the production all lined up, and got the hotel figured out, and we literally put this together in like 2 days and decided we need to be in Montreal. This is a big moment, and sure enough, it was the right move to make.
So what all goes into taking the production of a live TV show on the road?
Well, it's a lot because, this is behind the mic. Behind the broadcast is, we're in a comfortable studio. And the biggest thing is, you would know with this show is internet, right? You have a bad connection or I have a bad connection, the show is hooped, right? And that's the biggest pain and struggle that you'd have right now in this day and age of broadcasting. So we pay for good internet. We have reliable internet in our studio, consistent. Our lighting's consistent, our sound's consistent. It's all done, our staff, right? So we're leaving. We can't tear that up and leave. So I find production support in Montreal that can help accommodate what we need to accommodate. I, get the hotels booked. The biggest thing is booking a venue. And sure enough, our hotel was able to accommodate right next. It overlooked the Bell Center, beautiful views. And it just so happens that in internet speak, they had 800 up and 800 down megabytes per second, like phenomenal internet. So it all just lined up. We kind of call it a God shot, but things lined up the way they were supposed to. We had some other venues lined up as well that could have worked as a backup, but that goes into it. Scheduling flights, then coordinating with guys like Kelly Rempel and Peter Labardius to host the 2 shows on days we have to travel. So there's a lot that goes into planning this. And then you got to book guests on the ground and all of that. You got to decorate your set. You can't just go out there and stand on 2 chairs, right? You got to have a set. So the hotel was really good when it came to those things. It all came together, but there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, for sure. And how good is that? How good of a feeling is that when you guys need some help to cover the studio for a couple of days, and you can call on good people like Peter Labardius?
Oh my gosh! I mean, those guys are the best. and they're in our corner, and that's what matters, right? Relationships, having people in your corner, and didn't even have to, barely had to ask, right? And of course they're going to do it. And the shows were great. Gives people a break too from what they're used to on a day-to-day, so it kind of keeps things fresh. And then we can, do our thing in Montreal. So it worked really, really well, and it's great to have good people in your corner.
And another piece of news that I'll pull it up here on my computer just to make sure I get it right. A little bit of news of your own. Nominated as Young Entrepreneur of the Year from Paragon Business Excellence Awards. What's that like when you get your name brought up in that conversation?
You're gonna make me blush, Haji. That is cool. I've been in sports for so long, but doing this show has really got me to sink my teeth into business. And I love business. I love being an entrepreneur. Every day I love it. And, a few months ago, I was told that sorry, people are waving at me. I was told that I was nominated for the award, and that just blew my mind that I would even be nominated. Who would nominate me for an award? How do they know what I'm doing? And then to find out when I made the post that I was announced as one of the 3 finalists for the award, it's special. And I have a great team. Morgan in Saskatoon, she's like my right hand. She's phenomenal. I'm not doing this without her and without Rod, right? Those are the ride or dies, right? Rod's given me this opportunity to really manage his career and the honor to do this show. So it starts there. And we've brought in, we have a group of people all across the country. I've got a graphic designer, Troy, who's killing it in Vancouver, and Nelson in Saskatoon. And we've got a sales team in Calgary, whether it's Jim or Joe or Brett, or even people we've had in the past, like Tyler and Jan, or, and Paul, who's been so key at IKS for helping me out. There's a lot of people that go into it, the whole crew, whether it's Ryan and Jordan and Clark, and I don't want to miss people. Tyler was part of this, 2 Tylers. Has been part of this for a while. It's just been our interns, Alan and Rachel. Geez, it's a big team, right? So it's a reflection of everybody, not just me, but it's neat. It's new. It's a new experience for me.
And you talked a lot about Roddy there, and both of us could do that. I met him atop the stands at Curry Field. He brought me impromptu. He brought me on an episode of Sports Cage when he was doing that. And you two, we talked with Jamie Neugebauer earlier in the show and referenced the Regina Hub Center for last season in the Western Hockey League. And you and Roddy were the television crew doing Regina Pats games. So you were one of the two of the lucky few that got inside the building. And I remember texting with you after Connor Bedard went off and talking about how much fun that must be. How cool was that to get inside the rink, and what kind of an experience was that to see that?
Hockey, they say hockey's hockey, and being at the rink and doing a game, it becomes the same, but it doesn't. It was an honor to be in the rink. It really was. It wasn't like any other game. And, once you start doing the games, you kind of forget that there's nobody in the stands because you zero in on what's happening on the ice. But, everybody, it was weird because, and not that it's not this way all the time, but, oftentimes when you're around hockey people, they're so focused, right? They're such taskmasters and they're so good at their jobs. And, hockey is everything. And that was still the case. But everybody was just so grateful to be in the rink. And I think we start taking it for granted. But nobody was taking the hub for granted. Nobody was. Everybody was so grateful, from Ron Robinson and the league office to the team officials, to the players, to the coaches that we didn't really get to interact with in person because of COVID protocol. But everybody was so grateful to show up at the rink every day. And that was the real cool thing about it. It was a really neat experience.
The Western Hockey League is preparing to get back on the ice in October with fans. I'm not sure if the exact details have been ironed out just yet in all the different provinces, but how much is it going to mean to those communities in Saskatchewan specifically to be able to get to their local rink and to really have their teams back?
I mean a lot, and it means so much, especially to the smaller communities, the Swift Currents and PAs, but all of them, Regina, Saskatoon, Moose Jaw, you name it, and all across the Western Hockey League. They all want their teams back, and I think it's going to be so great if we can get fans back in the stands and get back to playing hockey. It's going to be such a great season, and I think we're going to be grateful for those first few games too. It's going to mean a lot more, and I love that when you get that special feeling showing up at the rink. That's what I'm looking forward to.
And the return of the Western Hockey League and the start of the new season in October is going to be big for you as we go back a few months, and Dupont Media acquired the DUBNetwork, the leading news website for Western Hockey League content. And you stepped in, acquired it to come alongside them and give it a boost. Is there anything that you can say about how you guys are going to be stoking the fire at DUBNetwork this season?
Well, there's such a good group of writers, and that's the biggest thing, right? Is trying to assemble the best team possible. And Paul has done just an awesome job over the years, and he's continuing to do a real phenomenal job. And he's juggling things too, and we all are, but it's a passion project. And I think that's what's important, is we do it because we love it and we love the Western Hockey League. And I think that's what makes it so much fun. So just hoping that we can continue to add to that team with really strong writers who can provide great coverage like we always have, and continue to build off the great product on the ice.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like the game is just about ready to get fired up there in Saskatoon, so we won't keep you too much longer. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, they're coming on the court now.
Can't wait to see that sight myself next time I get back into a rink. Probably going to end up being here in Victoria for the Western Hockey League season. But
nice,
Darren. Thanks so much for coming on with us and talking about the RP show's trip to Montreal and the season coming up in the Western Hockey League. Always great to talk to you. You know that, and we'll have you on again at some point, I'm sure. But
can't wait for the next time, man.
Thanks.
Yeah, I can't wait. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, we'll let you go in and enjoy. But thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
We'll take our last break here on Behind the Mic. I'll be back and wrap up the show for another week and get you set for next week here on Behind the Mic on ASTV Productions. Back here again on Behind the Mic on ASTV Productions. Jonathan Hodgson with you to wrap up the show for another week here on Behind the Mic. Thrilled to be joined this week by Jamie Neugebauer and Daryn Dupont. A lot of hockey talk in the summer as we prep for the upcoming SJHL and WHL seasons. Many thanks to Jamie and to Dupes for coming on and spending some time with us, and thanks to you for spending part of your Friday night with us here on a live edition of Behind the Mic. You can find us every Friday night, same time, same place, 5 Eastern, 8 Pacific on astvproductions.com and simulcasting on Facebook and over at our website. That's also where you can find all of our shows and archives from all of our shows here at ASTV, as well as our live game broadcasts. And you can also follow further updates over on Twitter. Early in the week is when we aim to announce our guest announced our guest lineups for each week on Behind the Mic. So follow us over there as we get set for next week. We got a lot of irons in the fire for next week's show, and looking forward to bringing it to you. So once again, on behalf of my guests, Jamie Neugebauer from the Notre Dame Hounds, from the SJHL, and from the SJHL's communications staff, and from DUBNetwork, and for Daryn Dupont of the Rod Pedersen Show and DUBNetwork, I'm Jonathan Hodgson. Thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you again next week.